early season prep, coach's corner. As Mike said, it's been a really big requested part of the show to bring back. Um, you don't know, it does take quite a bit to put these together and to get the information, because obviously between myself, Luke, and Mike, we want to give you the best information possible and don't want to lead you astray. So um, early season prep, preseason. So if you haven't done this already, you're behind the eight ball. If you haven't done this already, you should. But during the off season, when we're all basically hibernating, waiting for bowls to start, we're looking abroad to all the streams and wishing that we were out on the greens as well. But preseason, before you hit the greens, you should be choosing your goals. What are the competitions that you want? What are the teams that you want to be part of? Is it the same team from last year? Are you looking for something new? Did you get booted from your team, so you need a new team? Whatever the case may be. And is a goal to be an international player? Are you looking to, say, make it to Champion of Champions? Are you looking to make it to a World Bowls event? Are you looking to make the team? And is there a selection process or a selection piece that's coming up soon that maybe gives you the opportunity to be selected for that team? All these things should be goals that you're listing, and list it from, this is the ultimate goal, and then these are the goals that I need to get there. And you should be breaking your season down. You should be hopefully talking with the coach on how you're going to achieve these goals. It's important. If you don't write it on paper, if you don't have it down so that you can look at it and you have it sorted, they're just out there. It's like, I want to win a gold medal. Well, great. Fantastic. That's a good goal to have, but put it down and say, here's my goal. I want to win a gold medal at Canadians. This is how I'm going to do it. This is are the things that I need to get there. Get your plans in order. Okay, you need training plans and competition plans and the prep for your year. Just going out here and there, hucking your bulls on the green and drawing jacks isn't the best way to train. Sorry for all of you that do that, but I'm just gonna break your hearts now and say that it's not the best way to do it. You should have everything in order. Get a training plan. What are you going to train early? What are you going to train mid-season? What are your plans for when you get close to that goal? You're heading to the Canadians and you want to polish off those final pieces so that you're at the peak of your game when you enter the Canadians. What does that look like? When is that going to happen? And do an assessment. I've given it to a few people that have contacted me over the winter. They asked me, what should I do? Can you work with me? And so forth. And my first thing usually is to give them an assessment and say, hey, tell me about yourself. I list a whole bunch of shots and a whole bunch of skills. And I say, rate yourself from 1 to 10. 1 obviously being the worst and 10 being the best. If they come back with all 10s, I'm like, well, what do you need my help for? You're the best draw bowler in Canada. You're the best drive bowler in Canada, and so forth. Be honest and tell me what things you think you're good at and what things you're bad at, and tell yourself. We have a link in the description below. I did a video on this a little while ago as part of the technical difficulty series. Do an assessment, and it goes through everything you need. It has example, it links to example forms for doing it as well. So go check that out. It is a big part of understanding your game and getting prepared for the season. So yeah, Mike, do you have anything on preseason?
No, you touched on kind of the main parts that I like. Like when I was a high-end competitive bowler and wasn't washed up like I am now, a big part of it was doing the assessments and really looking at how I've been performed as a bowler, or how I kind of viewed myself as a bowler, and see what I needed to work on. Because when you start out a year, it's important to target areas or things that you could improve on or that you could work on to make yourself a more complete or well-rounded player. And so really, when you do these assessments, it opens your eyes sometimes about certain aspects of your game that you could develop, and then maybe do drills to target and work on. Because if you have a deficiency or something you're not so good at in your game, it's very easy to then plan your practice sessions to maybe look at how I can improve, or certain techniques type things that I can work on to improve that thing that I'm not so good at. So I really do recommend them because it helps you develop yourself, make yourself more well-rounded. And then when you do get to those competitions that you care about, if you've been working on your backhand draw on full length, which you know you're not very good at, if you've been working on it, you're going to get into a game situation and you're going to maybe play great bowls on your backhand full length type of a thing. So it's definitely worthwhile to look at an assessment and go through with one. If you're even a semi-competitive player, I do recommend them because it is helpful to sort of help you target anything that you would do want to work on for the season that's coming up.
I, I do have to say that one of my favorite things, and it might be a little, I don't know, sadistic on my part or something like that. It's when a player comes to me and does an assessment and they've got nines on all these things. You know, I'm amazing at these, and I take them out to the green and we do some drills, and they're hitting less than 20% of everything, and it's like, okay, you know, bring them back down to earth and say like, I'm glad you think so greatly of yourself, but let's start talking honestly. And these assessments get easier over time. Like the first one might be all over the place. You might think you suck at something and you're actually really good, and you might think you're really good at something and you might not play so well. But over time, they start to balance out, and then you get really, really good. And if your assessment hits with what you're actually doing, that's when you know you're in tune, and you really understand where your game is at. So um, definitely an important part. One of my favorite slides, early season excuses. So when I talk to people and we talk about early season training, I get a whole bunch of stuff back. Like my club isn't open. You know, my club is opens late compared to everyone else. I'm at a disadvantage as I don't get on the greens. You know, I don't need practice. Why practice when I can enter tournaments and play all day every day? What do I need to go out and roll some bowls for on my own? I'm all by myself. Um, I'm on my own, no one to help, and no one really has my drive to succeed. You know, I'm one of a kind. So, uh, you know, I rub people the wrong way, and they don't want to play with me or something like that. You know, I'm too aggressive. I'm too competitive. The greens are slow. You know, obviously this one is very common. You know, the greens are so slow in April and May. You know, I can't get my bowl down the green. I can barely get it up to minimum length or the minimum line. You know, and the lines are terrible. I'm just going up the center of the green, and everything's so wet and damp and soggy. The weather is bad. You know, day in day out we get a nice sunny day, and then we get a crappy rainy day. Um, you know, why should I go out, and why would I go out on a very overcast, chilly day? I'll just wait for the next sunny day where it's nice and hot and I can wear my shorts and everything's great and the greens are dry or drier, I should say. Um, and I just need to draw. Why am I going out and doing all these training drills? I just want to, you know, put a jack out there and I'll draw it, and then I'll do it again and I'll do it again, and that's all I need. I just need to draw jacks. Do you have any more excuses to add to this list? Is there any great ones that you hear for people in the early season?
No, like all of your all the ones you have here, I hear those variations myself. I think the term that we use in Saskatchewan is a huck and chuck when it's so slow early season that you essentially just throw the ball or bowl as hard as you can right down the middle and hope that it doesn't back out and whatever it might be. So definitely the greens are slow is a common excuse. Weather is bad, everything like that. But again, they're things that you should be looking at in a different light, because if you think about it, when you're playing in a competition, the weather's not gonna always be optimal and the greens aren't always going to be optimal. So exactly what with your solution slide here, you have to go out and practice when it's overcast, cold, whatever you might want to call it, or if the greens are a little damp, whatever it is, because it's going to make you better. It's going to make you better prepared for when you do get into a competition and you can't choose if you want to go out and when it's next sunny or whatever it might be. So I'll let you take back over here.
Uh, I'll start with that one. Get used to bad weather. Um, every day that you go out for competition, if you're a serious competitive bowler and you're bowling in tournaments or you bowl internationally, the weather's not going to be your friend all the time. It could be cold, it could be raining, and they may not pull you off until the greens flood or there's thunder and lightning. Now, I'm not saying, you know, go out in the worst rainstorm imaginable and slog it around and get yourself a cold and feel miserable all the time. But I'm saying if it's overcast and a little chilly and you're thinking, it feels a little damp, go out and practice. Get out those days. It's just like training for a race and running and exercising and everything like that. It's like it's not always prime conditions. And if you're only going out there in prime conditions to play and to practice, you don't know what it's like to play in adverse situations where the green is a little damp, the green is a little soggy, maybe. You're not feeling the greatest. You're a little chilly. I hear constantly from people who go into a tournament and then they can't hold on to their bowl. They say it's too cold and I can't hold on to my bowl. It's like you should have known that ahead of time and you should have solutions. If you're going to play competitive, you should have solutions to these things. If you can't hold on to your bowl when it's really cold out, what are you going to do to fix that? Because I don't think your teammates are going to appreciate the fact that you say, "Well, it's a little chilly. I'm going to pull out of this because I can't hold on to my bowl." That kind of ruins the whole thing. Um, think outside the box. This blows my mind. People go out there on like an 8 second green, even slower, and they try to rip it all the way down to the tee. Drawing the ditch. It is not an effective use of your time. Think differently. Training doesn't have to be the traditional rink. It doesn't have to be in one straight line. It doesn't have to be maximum length or even minimum length. Turn your mat around, step, let's say 3 or 4 yards out, and bowl towards the ditch. Get your motion down and your delivery down. Work on your line. Don't worry about getting your bowl all the way down to the end. Make sure you're hitting your line. When the greens get faster, it'll help you out. Going out there and just trying to rip it down the green is not helping anybody. It's not helping you. So do it differently. People may look at you weird because you're not playing the traditional game or you're not practicing at a traditional length, but you're working on your skills. You're working on your delivery. You're working on your mechanics. You're working on your line. All those kind of things, and you can do it on a crappy green. It doesn't mean that you're gonna be drawing jacks because maybe there's no draw out there. It's just too heavy. But at least you can work on the mechanics. You can work on the little things. So do it differently. Think out of the box. Um, for those guys that and women that go out there and say, "I play in tournaments every single day and on weekends. Why do I need to train?" Playing isn't training. Playing is your test. You go out to an open tournament, that's your test. It'll give you an idea of where you're at. So based on the competitive level that your tournament is at, whether it's like a district level or just a provincial, where it's a Canadian, maybe you get some international players in there. You know the levels that you're at and who you're playing against. Um, but it's not going to give you the repetition. It's not going to give you an idea of how to improve your bowls. You're not going to be able to improve a shot. You're going to be able to see if you can make it or not, but you need to take the time to train, to get out there and do the repetitions to make it stick, to fix the problems, to identify what things are going wrong so that you can then fix them again. Going out and playing in a tournament, you're playing shots all over the place, you're doing different strategies, you're playing in competition. It's a great test, but it's not training. Um, and stop this single focus, boring crap that you're going out there, you're hucking a jack and you're drawing. And then you're hucking a jack and you're drawing. And then you're hucking a jack and you're drawing. I mean, it's boring for me to even say it. Going out and drawing 1,000 jacks or 1,000 bulls to a bare jack loses its effectiveness after a little while. It's a great warm up. It's a great thing to have as one of the steps that you do, but you don't do it all the time, every time. You don't do it for hours on end. It's part of your warm up. It's part of the prep that you have, and you do need to understand if you can draw a bare jack. If you can't draw a bare jack, I mean, there's some work to be done, but you don't need to go out and do it 1,000 times every time. Go out and practice a roll. Be a lead. Move your mat up and down. Try different jack placements. try drawing second shot. Put a bowl close and say, can I get around it? Put obstacles out there. Can I get around these shots and actually make it to the jack? Um, there's a whole bunch of fun stuff that you can do that will still improve your draw, but it's not just drawing a jack, drawing a jack, drawing a jack. Boring, absolutely boring. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. The just throwing a jack and drawing to it is amongst the most boring thing you can probably do as a player. Lots of people like to do it because it does have, I guess, some sort of effectiveness. But as you're saying, if you're just doing that over and over again, you're losing out on a lot of different shot selections that you do have in bowls. Obviously, there's more than just a draw. There is yard on shots, there's takeouts, there's trails, whatever it is. You're kind of losing a very broad amount of shots that there are in bowls. So drawing does lose its effectiveness. You should definitely be sort of strategizing what you're going to be doing and sort of what you say here with the train to your given position. So part of that pre-planning for the season is figuring out where you're going to be playing, what type of shots you're going to be playing as a lead, or if you're a second on a fours team, whatever it is, it's going to target what you should be looking at. And then if you've done an assessment on yourself, I'm the skip and I'm not so good at my weight shots. Maybe I should work on my weight shots. Or I'm the vice and I'm not so good at playing that position bowl to the tee. Whatever it might be, you're going to be able to target what you should work on from knowing where you're going to be playing, what type of competitions you're going to be playing. And then obviously your practice then could be tailored to, okay, and I'm going to work on drawing to the tee and then maybe throw a couple bowls sort of in the line to make that a more difficult shot so that you have to get around a bowl to get to the tee or close to the tee type of a thing. So that's the one thing I would really say is drawing to that jack, never all that effective. If unless you're maybe that lead, that part of that is if you're a lead or you're a person who's only playing singles, you want to be just a lights out with your draw, you can definitely do that. But obviously then you're just going to be maybe tailoring it to throw a couple different things in there so that you do have that breadth of shots.
Make training fun. I mean, I had when I had some coaches and even in other sports when they would tell me to do something a million times. I mean, I get the repetition, but after you've repeated a bunch of times, I'm not getting anything out of it. Doing it 100 times, 200 times every single day. Um, make it a part of your training, but don't make it the whole thing. There's so much more that you can do, and it'll still improve your draw. Throwing obstacles out there. I mean, as a lead or as a singles player, you've got other bowls that you need to navigate around. So, practicing those undershots, those around shots, those different things that you normally wouldn't do, it's worth your time. And it makes it a little more interesting. And interest is what gets the brain going as well.
Because since you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to eventually turn yourself into a zombie where you're just showing up, throwing your bowls, and you're not really caring. And then you're obviously maybe not going to be getting the most out of yourself for that training session. So varying it up, maybe only doing 3 times a week instead of 5 times a week so that you're extra focused, whatever it is, and you sort of will get to know yourself and what you need to do when you are training to really get the best out of yourself and the best out of the sessions. So it's very much tailoring it to yourself and making sure you are focusing and that you are all there when you are training.
And one of the final things we have, near and dear to our hearts, find a coach, find someone. There is a coach for everybody. It might not be the same coach for every single person. I'm not the best coach for everybody. Mike's not the best coach for everybody, but we're the right coach for somebody, and we're the right coach for certain groups of people, depending on what they're in competition for, what they're looking for. My coaching style might not fit you. That's perfectly fine. It's not a me or you thing. It's more of just a styles clashing, and that's totally okay. But there is a coach for you. It can be hard to find, but talk to your club, talk to your province. Reach out to people that that maybe do have a coach and say, hey, how do I find a coach? How do I get myself better? And sometimes it's just sending out a plea for help. It's like, I need a coach. Like, point me in the right direction and towards people. Um, it's a huge step. When you do find a coach, find someone that pushes you. Don't find somebody that's just going to get you to do the same things you've always been doing. Don't get somebody who is just gonna say you're doing great, fantastic, just keep doing it and go on your way. Find someone who's gonna push you, who's gonna get you out of your comfort zone, who's going to show you different things that you've never thought of before, um, and help you raise that bar. Someone who cares that you're going to move forward. Um, some coaches are good at helping new bowlers get to a competitive level. Some are good for getting competitive bowlers to Canadians, and others are good for taking those seasoned, really good bowlers and getting them to that next elite level where they're playing international bowls. So there's coaches for everybody, but you want somebody that's going to push you into that next level and be the right person for you. Um, Find someone that can help you. Okay. Like we said, plans are critical to success. A yearly plan, a training plan, a competition plan, and even game plans. And I don't see a lot of those out there. Some people say they have them and don't. Some people do have them, but don't use them very well. Find a coach that can help you plan appropriately for where you are. Um, all the plans are good. Not everybody needs a super intense yearly plan or a super intense training plan. They just need a guide to say, like, early season I do this, mid season I do this, and when I'm close to the end of my season I do that, and then off season this is where I do stuff off the green and do visualization and a bunch of other stuff. Um, and find a coach that communicates, someone that's going to be open and honest and going to discuss things with you, someone who's going to give you the information you need and not sugarcoat things all the time. You know, they'll give you the good with the bad. They'll tell you what you need to work on, and someone who's accessible. You know, you don't want to try to work with a coach who's never around or who'll never get back to you and never give you feedback. You want someone that's going to give you feedback, that's going to be there to see how you're doing and what you're doing. And they might not be there every single day for every single practice. You may practice on your own, but at least they're there to guide you and get you in the right direction. What do you think, Mike?
No, can't can't disagree with anything you've said there. You put it well. Where a lot of it is getting a coach involved with you. Not every coach is going to be the right coach for you, so you may have someone coach you and then move on to a different coach. But there are coaches out there, and there are people who are willing to help you that may not be your traditional certified coaches, we'll say, but there are people that are very good, either mentors, whatever you want to call people who played the game and do have valid things that they can tell you or help you out with. So definitely worthwhile reaching out to people, because probably within your club there's going to be either a certified coach or a veteran player, we'll call them, that maybe is willing to give you some critiques, help you out, maybe give you some drills to steer you in the right direction. Whatever it might be, it would be helpful reaching out to people to sort of coach or mentor you, because a lot of it is planning, honestly, as you indicate. Having a little bit of a plan, you're going to show up to the green and you're going to practice for an hour and a half, and you're going to do 30 minutes of drawing to an off-centered jack because you realize you're not so good when the jack's off-centered. That's something that you can strategize 8 ends or however many ends it would be, drawing to that off-centered jack, and then you're going to do a half an hour of tee to tee and super short, just to get your long and short on point, whatever it might be. Sort of having little plans like that in your head are very important to make your sessions worthwhile, just because you are going to vary it up, as we're saying, instead of just drawing to the same jack over and over again. Trying different things, getting different types of shots out there, because when you do get to the game situations, when you do practice things, you're going to be much better off.
Well said. And this is just a summary. Um, Modify your training. Okay. Don't be afraid to make it super short. To not draw T to T on a really slow green that's not going to give you much. Um, Make sure that uh, you're doing what's right for you. You know, you don't have to play the traditional game. You can play it and train in different ways and all over the place, and you can play corner to corner on the green if you wanted to, if it's available. There's nothing stopping you from doing things that are different and that will help. Um, Try playing in less than ideal weather. You never know how you'll perform. What can you do to improve? Do you know how you're gonna play when it gets really cold or really wet? Are you constantly dumping your bowl? How do you fix that? What do you need with you? Be prepared. Understand what you need to do. We've said it a bunch of times already. Don't just go out and draw jacks. Plan to do some dynamic drills. Keep it interesting. Put out obstacles. Be creative. Engage the brain. This is what's going to get you where you want to go in bowls. Just slogging bowls up and down isn't going to do it. You want this to work as well. And one thing we didn't quite touch on, but I wanted to add here on the end is don't overlook visualization. Everybody does it. We all visualize our line. We want to know, can we get outside this bowl? Can we get under this bowl? Is it going to come back on this hand? I've played a few. How do I draw the jack? It's shorter or it's longer. We all visualize the line. You can do this even when the greens aren't ready and when the greens are crappy. Okay? You can visualize. Get used to doing some more realistic visualization. You can see the green, you can see the jack, you can see your bowl, you can see it go down. You're picking your line, and you can tell what the arc is. Visualization works. They use it in all types of sports. Don't overlook it. Your body goes where your mind tells it to. So train this just as much as you're out there rolling bowls.
Yeah, well said. Like the weather part, I think is an important one to touch on. When you're starting early in the year, we obviously get quite a bit of wind. In the spring is one of the things that's pretty common is it's very windy frequently. And one of the good ways to sort of develop yourself as a player mentally is to go out when it is windy. It's not considered optimal to have either a headwind or a side wind, whatever you want to, whichever direction you want to play. But it does add a very tricky part to that practice where if you have a headwind one direction, you're going to have to throw it harder than the other way. And you're going to have to use how the wind gusts because obviously when you're in a competition, that's a huge part of the game is if you do have a wind going, it significantly affects things. So go out in those suboptimal conditions because it's going to help you develop that mental part of the game and also allow you to maybe get that laser focus where you know that, okay, there's a pretty heavy wind coming from my side. I have to sort of compensate when I am throwing for it. So I do really want to harp on that one because that is a big part of the game that I think a lot of people underestimate is the suboptimal conditions are very important to put yourself through.
And Pierre in chat, I was just gonna say that's an excellent point. Being accountable to someone, even if it's just a part of your game, but having someone that you're accountable to that's pushing you, whether it's a player or a coach, really, I'm accountable to the player. It makes me have to do my job to the best of my ability because I want the best for that player, and I'm accountable to them. If I screw up or I don't give them something, or I am too lazy and I just sit on my hands, it's hurting that player. And with the player, it'll push you to train because there's a coach that you have to tell them. It's like, well, what did you do this week? Well, I just went out and drew jacks 1,000 times. Well, not a great answer. Or I didn't even go out this week, for whatever reason. Someone to be accountable to hold you to that standard and to make sure that you're going in the right direction. That's a really good point too.
Well, and even if you're scheduling sessions with your coach and you don't show up on the Wednesday session because it was windy out and you didn't want to go out because it was super windy,
Yep.
you have that accountability where if your coach is going to be there, you're probably going to show up because you've made a plan to be there with someone and to practice. And then if you don't show up, it's obviously that accountable nature. So great point by Pierre there. It is very much the accountability is a huge part of that coach player relationship because it does help you develop and sort of come along as a player when you do have that accountability of a coach with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first coach's corner in a while, with Batuli and Fitzgerald. You got two coaches for the price of one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully we can keep putting these things on and make it relevant to your season. We wanted this one to be very relevant to the people that are just getting out on the greens and give you stuff to think about.